I am so excited to have Jennifer Louden today as my guest on the show. You may know her from The Life Organizer or The Comfort Queen or her time on Oprah or with her time on the Martha Stewart radio network. You may know Jennifer because she just got married and so she's celebrating. Woohoo! However you know her, we're going to learn some new fun things about her today, and she's going to give us some words of wisdom. So welcome to the show.
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know if there's any words of wisdom in here today.
So excited to have you here. As you can tell in my book, I've got tons of Post-it notes here, and I'm going to ask you some questions, but I want to go right to it. In the back of the book, I think on the back cover, you say that you're devoted to nurturing women to help express their true creative power so they can help change the world. That's a powerful statement. Explain to you what do you mean about creative power?
Well, to me, we're always engaged in the story of our lives. And how do we keep waking up to crafting that story? I mean, as someone who self-identifies as a writer and a passionate reader, I'm fascinated by story, and I'm fascinated by mythology, and I'm fascinated by how we live those stories and the archetypes of consciousness in a way that really allows us to find that intersection between our gifts and what the world needs. And I think, for someone my age, I'm 50, and growing up very self-identified with the 60s, it was sort of all about us, us, us. And even though I'm really on the cusp, some people call me a baby boomer and some people wouldn't, but I identify as a baby boomer. And what I see happening now that is so important, and it feels like we all need to be working towards this, is how we, me, plus us. And that creativity and story and consciousness are the fulcrum.
I really love that. It's so much fun that you mentioned archetypes because I work a lot with archetypes in business and how you can market and all of those kinds of things. Are there different archetypes around creativity or just around our life stories in general? Can you explain that a little bit?
I think there's millions probably, or at least, depending on who we listen to, Jung or, Joseph Campbell. Or so to me, what's most important, and this is me, is finding those subtle energies in myself and then finding the mythology or the archetypes that relate to those. And this is for me. So if I sit down to, for example, read my friend Sally Kempton's book, shoot. You can see Awakening Joy. This is a friend of mine, and I just interviewed her the other day for the series I'm doing. And so she identifies archetypes as Hindu and goddesses. So for some people, that going from that place into their own subtle energies works. For me, I have to go to my subtle energies and then look for stories or archetypes that help me understand them more. Mm-hmm. But I have to start inside. I have to start with, what is it that it means for me to have creative power? What is the feeling tone of the story of my life? And so I've been reading a lot about the Odyssey, the Homer epic lately, and kind of, it's very masculine. I've always loved the writing of it, but I never identified with it before, but it's stirring something in me or connecting with that subtle energy of the journey that I feel like I'm on. Does that make any sense?
It does. I love that. And I love the way that you talk about going to the archetypes inside first, and then I presume relating that to your great gifts and your creative power and so forth. So also in the Life Organizer, you quote Martha Graham, "It's not my business to judge my gifts, but to make use of them."
Yeah. I have to remind myself that every day.
Yeah, because not only as women, because I work with men as well, but I think women we judge ourselves more harshly.
I think maybe never before as much as in this time in history, because we can go online and we can in 5 minutes compare ourselves to 30 people. We can compare ourselves to someone famous like Maria Shriver. We can compare ourselves to our friend next door who maybe wrote a great blog post today. We can compare our Instagram photographs to, being really fast going by on our phone, a whole bunch of people. And so I struggle with this constantly, trying to unhook from that comparison. And that's not true for all of us. I mean, some of us tend towards comparison more than others. I'm an Enneagram 4, and envy is my kryptonite, is what I think of it. But we all have to work on, I think more than ever before, is owning those gifts and feeling their unique flavor. And that's a lot of work sometimes,
And it shouldn't be a lot of work. But you just talked about a blog post, and this is such a great segue because into the work as well, because you just wrote about Diane Nyad, is that how you pronounce it? Swimming across, breaking records, and it was so moving and so touching. And she talks about, that it was a dream, that it's never too late, that she worked hard for these things. And you said in your blog post, you had 3 points as well. And I'm going to read them, and then I'd like to go over each one. Sure. When I groan, it's not too late. What I really mean is I'm unwilling to proclaim I want this. And you wrote that, and what I take that from you is that you kind of have to put your stake in the sand if you want something, whether it's your creative power, sharing your gifts, being in business. You got to
falling in love. You spoke about, my marriage, or, showing up with your teen, more honestly, and not always hectoring them on what they haven't done right. Think of another theme in our house. My teenager's older now, but my stepson, it can be very specific, and to sit with that yearning, that's what I find myself always wanting to turn away from, to just be in that alchemical place of, I want this, and it may well be that I can't get it because I am unable to the task, like Diane Nyad had to face, right? It was very possible she wasn't going to make it.
Right. What do you mean turn away from it?
It's uncomfortable.
Oh.
The world that we live in, the world of, film montages and, social media, and, it puts a gloss on stuff. And so, but the real truth of it is I could sit with that yearning to really be able to meet my daughter where she is without saying something stupid that shuts her down. And I probably 5 minutes later, I'm going to forget and something stupid's going to come out of my mouth, right? And that's what I mean to be in the yearning. Or I'm really cooking on, I think, trying to write a new book for the first time in many years. And I get so overwhelmed and so depressed because I don't think I'm up to it. And can I take that, can I go away from the future, which may or may not happen, and just be with the desire, which is quite enlivening.
You get overwhelmed?
I get overwhelmed. I just came from taking care of my mom who has Alzheimer's, and we're about to move her into assisted living. And I'm driving back, like hyperventilating. Like she doesn't feel well. I can't figure out why she doesn't feel well. I don't think she's eating enough. We're not going to get her moved into this place for at least a month. I have backed up too many of my projects to talk about in public to try to get people enrolled in too short of a period of time. I'm just going, okay, all right, it's okay. No one's going to die. No one's going to die. Just make sure mom doesn't die.
Right,
That's the important thing.
And so I've heard it say to get out of overwhelm and depression, creativity can be a way out.
Yes, but again, we go back to this desire. Like, if you can see everybody, I think kind of back there is my art table. And I don't consider myself an artist. I make art messes. And I can go there and I can get restored. But sometimes I'm afraid to even walk those steps and open that drawer and take out the crayons and just start making a mess because I want it to be something.
Right.
And this is why I teach this creative joy retreat in October, because I want to create a space where people can just come and be held. We need each other often to cross that threshold and just be in the desire of creativity, and that can build a bridge to the desire of our bigger dreams, like to write a book.
Since you mentioned the retreat, I'm going to go ahead and give out your website. It is, I want to make sure I get it right.
Thank you.
jenniferlouden.com/blog news. BLOGNEWS. So
you get freebies there.
And there's freebies there, and you can find out about the retreat and everything else. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Yeah. So you touched upon we need each other. Mm-hmm. And Diane Nyad said it took a team.
35 people.
Yeah, it took a team. So we can't do it alone.
And can I interrupt you and say something about that? Because that's another part of I want it. Mm-hmm. We have to be willing to be very vulnerable and humble. And I can't stress this enough. This is so hard for me. I have 2 part-time assistants. It is so hard for me to go to them and say, I suck at X, Y, and Z. Can you do it for me? And so can you imagine what it's like to say to 35 people who I'm sure were not getting paid, please stay up for 52 hours with me. I mean, presumably they took, shifts. And paddle across dark, cold, shark-infested waters in a little kayak to support me while I do this thing that has no purpose in the world. It's not going to feed anybody. It's not going to change what's happening with climate change. But I feel driven to do it, and I hope that by being driven and completing it, it will bring some good to the world. I mean, that's huge.
Wow, this is so big, I think. Jen, because it seemingly has no purpose in the world, but look how she has touched you and me and countless other people who love her inspirational message of it's never too old, you can go for what you want, you can believe in yourself, you can dream. So seemingly there's no purpose, and there's this huge purposeful outcome.
Well, I just keep thinking about what she said after she came out of the hospital, which is that, she was in such excruciating pain all through Saturday night because she was being stung in her mouth with the jellyfish. And I think, okay, what pain am I willing to endure for what I care about? I care greatly about trying to stop what's happening to our planet, and because we could stop it. We could stop so that the world is not going to be flooded when our polar ice caps are completely gone. I care deeply about empowering women to find what their thing is, to be part of saving our species. How much pain am I willing to endure for that? I mean, it's kind of an uncomfortable question to ask, because I used to be the comfort queen, right? I like the idea of comfort and ease and fun, and I know that that's super important. I mean, she got out of the ocean, immediately got an IV, but I also know that there is this part of me that I want to bolster that can endure pain.
Wow. That's an interesting perspective, and I know that it's painful to start a new book.
It is painful. That's what I was thinking about today. Exactly. I was like, I can't do this. I have nothing to say. This is so stupid. And then I tapped into this yearning. Again, the want. I want to give voice to this journey that women are on, this Shiro's journey. I want to give voice to something about that, and I could feel it. But, will feeling it become pages that become something that can help people? I really don't know. And so, there we go back. Well, and stay there. I mean, I think that's what Pema Chodron's always pointing us to, and so many other good teachers are pointing us to. How do we stay there instead of in the future when I can't write the pages?
Oh, yeah. Stay in the present. Let me go to point number 2 in your blog post. When I moan, I'm too old, it's too hard, I don't know how, someone else has already done it better. What I'm actually saying is I'm not willing to ache, and that's what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not willing to stay here. And the ache can be pleasurable too. The ache it's multifaceted, it's multi-hued. It's not just, oh, poor me, right? Because that's a story too. It's just like, oh, I'm here, I'm feeling, I'm so alive to this yearning. And can I let that yearning continue to pull me forward no matter what the obstacles?
Yeah.
And because it keeps everything fresh, that yearning. It keeps everything fresh, but it's also, I don't know, maybe there's something about our amygdala that doesn't like it. Right? But there's something in me that just goes, oh no, I want to touch something off my, check something off my list, you know, and I'll watch myself go away from the yearning to something that I can do and accomplish and finish.
Right. Yearning and ache and desire and passion, they can all be uncomfortable.
Yeah, they seem to be, like, it seems to be about, personally for me, increasing my capacity to be there and not distract myself.
Oh, I like that. Not distract. The third point in your post is when I get sleepy. I love that.
Literally.
When I get sleepy and leave crucial details to chance near the end of the project. And then like this one, because you're working on a free series, series. I'm actually saying I'm too scared to bet it all.
Yeah. I've been writing about a period in my life when my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, my ex-husband now, but then my husband was diagnosed with leukemia, and a dear friend died. We're not sure whether he was a suicide or, anyway, a dear friend died untimely death, a horrible death. And I lost 2 big contracts and really felt like a has-been in my work. And then my husband left me. And this is over a period of about 2 years. So I've been trying to now, 6 years later, go in and 7 years later, write about it. And I keep finding the theme that's coming through in the beginning is this going to sleep, this turning away, this slowing down, this becoming like I am in mud. And then so of course when you're writing about the past and you see a pattern, you see it then in your current life. I'm like, why? I've been working on this conference for 4 months. Why is it down to the wire? And I only now starting to tell people about it. Now, yes, I got married, and yes, I'm a tendency to not plan well. I have spatial temporal issues because of my dyslexia. But still, and then I can't beat myself up because then that just slows me down more.
and I think a lot of people would say, well, you just, life dealt you a huge blow in those 2 years, and I think you lost your cat as well on top of it all. Right? And
got eaten by coyotes.
And I think some people would just say, well, that's normal, it's natural, you were grieving, you had to recover. You call it sleepy, and I just find that's interesting, that word.
Well, so for example, I won't tell you why, but there's some very specific moments. I mean, literally, when we were in the hospital with my husband, we thought for about 2 weeks that he had a very non-Hodgkin's and that he was going to die. And every day the oncologist would come in and give us more vague but menacing news. And literally the oncologist, I would have to struggle to stay awake while he was in the room. It was like someone was gassing us. And he would leave and I would crawl into bed with Chris and we would both fall asleep every single day. So there's a real specific incident of shutting down. But I also shut down around the circumstances of my dad's actual death. So it's not beating myself up. It's looking at, I think part of what we look at when we try to write our stories, when we're claiming, go back to the beginning, the stories of our lives, is what are the patterns that I see? What are the ways that I'm not, what are the places that I'm trying to become more enlivened and more awake?
And that takes us back to archetypal patterns.
Yes,
too.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Going back to the support, I have to find it here on your site.
I have to make myself a note because I want to look up the origins of sleepiness.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. So going back to support, and I want to read, where is it? You launched, here you go. You created popular licensed products, including calendars and mugs. I remember. People still ask for those things. You stopped because you didn't like making stuff. Okay, I get that. And you didn't want to run a business, mainly because you didn't know how to get support. Mm-hmm. Right? And
another pattern. Me getting support. I ran that business by myself. I didn't even have a VA. I had a giant content website at that time. It was insane. And I look back on that and I think, what would have been different with a different story about support, a different story about business? And I find this, after years of being mad at myself, I now find it fascinating how we are so, and maybe I'm the only one because I'm so freaking stubborn, but we get just locked in this story that we repeat over and over again about why something can't work or didn't work. And it's never, ever 100% true. It's never 100% fixed. I just keep finding this place that I'm at now of how can I unfreeze that story that I made up, whether I made it up 20 years ago or whether I made it up 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously you're better at getting support now because it's up and you have two assistants and
I am.
And you're getting better. But was there a breakthrough? Because I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, is how to get support and how to know what kind of support you need.
Well, there was many moments of breakthrough, and I'll try to make it some bullet points. One is support is not the same as being rescued.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So I used to look for being rescued. I looked for someone who would tell me what to do. No one can tell you what to do. So choice must be at the heart of your support. The second thing is how it's vulnerable. So it's not like, I don't watch reality TV, but I think that Donald Trump guy with the funny hair has a reality TV show. And I think imagine he is very yelly and demanding about his support. It's not like that. It's very vulnerable to say, I need you to do social media tweets for me because I want to pull my hair out if I have to write the same thing over and over again. I can write a few and then my inspiration's gone. So will you go do these and say last day and in 3 days time and all those kind of things. And so that's number 2. The third thing is being willing to give direction the way you give direction and then get feedback about how you could change how you give direction. But don't judge yourself because you don't give direction. For example, I don't give direction in a linear way. I'm all over the map. And then the fourth thing is it's trial and error. And if you hang out with other people, entrepreneurs who are getting support, which I do, I have a brain trust I've been part of for 7 years. Everybody in there, and I consider them far more brilliant than I am, I don't even guess, that sounds like I consider myself brilliant, but they're all brilliant, they have failed and had to rehire. And so but they don't look at it as failures. They look at it as iteration.
Nice. And I think too, very often if we're asking for support from a VA and you give direction and you get back a product or quality that isn't what you expected, that's feedback. About how you gave direction, right?
And it also can be feedback about their ability because there's a lot of people who provide support on the internet who have issues around being employed. I have found this to be a pretty strong trend. I found brilliant people, but I've also found some people who have strands of brilliance and strands of dysfunction. And you have to, if you're running into dysfunction, don't tell yourself it's all you.
Oh, that is so important.
Yeah.
Because I have worked with VAs, some brilliant, some not so brilliant, and people locally. When you're hiring people, I think especially part-time, or maybe even full-time, but they're contractors and they work from home or whatever. Some of them tend to kind of come and go. And it's like, where'd you go the last 2 days?
Oh, I've had that experience. And it's just, and I would blame myself. Like, what didn't I do? And so I really had to learn to say, this is the experience I'm having. Let me honor that. I don't have to prove it to anybody. I don't have to make them wrong or me right. I don't have to have a trail of who did what. I'm having the experience of not feeling supported, of things not getting done on time.
Oh, such clarity. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. You talk about how you worked hard to get on Oprah. And I think you said you worked your butt off.
Somehow it's still here. But
you got on Oprah. Fabulous for you. And yet you feel like you sold yourself out?
Well, there's two things about it. One was that I was living in the rescue fantasy that if I got on Oprah finally, I would feel good about myself and good about my work, and that I was looking for something that nobody can give you. And of course, I didn't realize that until I walked off the stage and went, why does this feel so stupid? Why does this feel, not stupid, like, but like this feels so empty. Empty is the right word. Then the second thing is I was on a segment for women who were afraid to eat alone. And while we talked about the Women's Retreat book and we talked about retreating, the focus of the segment was fairly not of interest to me. I had a young child at the time, and basically I was like, look, if you get to go to a restaurant and eat alone, why wouldn't you enjoy it? Bring a book. Right. You get to sit down and finish a meal. So I was a little, that was the part that I feel like I sold out on because I was so excited to get on this show. So instead of saying, that's a great segment, but not for me, and here's an idea for a segment for me, taking that risk. Mm. And I didn't know how to do that then. I didn't know that was an option. But I did know that something felt wrong when they talked about the segment, and that I could have listened to that.
So that's something intuitively inside that you know yourself and your gifts and what you have to offer better than anybody else.
I would say actually, Michelle, that for me, the thing that I do is I override, again, I just want to go back to desire and yearning. I override what my desires are by thinking I'm not worthy of them. So my desire was to be on Oprah, and I think, the desire actually was kind of a perverted desire. Please see me. Please love me. Please say I'm good enough. Please say my books are good. So doing the deep, again, archetypal or excavation work to say, what is my real desire? Oh, my real desire is to reach people with my work. Oh, no, my real desire is to know that my work is valuable. Well, how would I ever know that? How do I find that in myself? So that's what the journey started me on, and I'll admit, still on that. But I think that's the deep work we have to do with our gifts, is getting to a place where we can honor them for ourselves first, foremost, and at the end of the day, and unhooking from needing others to validate us.
Unhooking maybe from an attachment of what other people think.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. And we live in a culture that's all about experts and, hey, you made it if you're on some reality TV show. And as much as I live in a bubble on an island, I still get that.
Yeah.
It comes in my computer with the Huffington Post email every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see you've got a puppy dog behind you.
Oh, yeah, I have a couple puppy dogs. Can you see them?
Yeah.
Luna. Here.
One of them just raised her head, and
that's Luna. She's the black one. She's somewhere. She's our little worrier. And then Stuart.
Hi, Stuart. He's the one that looked around a minute ago. I'm like, oh, look, I didn't even notice. I thought he was a pillow. That is so fun. I love this. Connecting with you online. You're in an island. You just got married. Congratulations. I think I said that earlier, but I don't know if I announced it. It's so exciting. And I just love this medium to connect and share. And you do have so much wisdom.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Your gift, one of your many gifts, is writing. I know you also do retreats. And you're writing a new book. So
don't go that far yet.
Is there a thread between the creativity, the writing, your coaching, the retreats you do? Has there been a thread throughout your life? Because I think when we're looking inward with our own gifts, it helps to look at the threads. Because you could say you're all over the place. You're writing, you're doing retreats, you're doing coaching, you're creative, right? So what is the thread that pulls it all together for you?
It is this waking up. How do we wake up? And to me, the way that I wake up is through creating. So I don't know what I think until I write. I don't often take in the beauty and goodness of the world until I create something with it, whether that's taking a photograph or, making a little art sculpture on the beach. So creating as a way to wake up, I think, is the theme for me. And then service, like how does that connect us to making the world a better place, to engaging in some way, to not going to sleep? Those are the themes. And that they've been with me since I was little, waking up community, let's be in this together. There's a solution. There's a way. There's a way to make this better, whether it's our health or our climate change or our families. There's always a way to make it better.
I just love these themes that are coming across this whole interview series, because I interviewed Molly Gordon and she talks a lot about creativity. I know you guys know each other.
Yeah.
And I'm interviewing Julia Cameron next week.
Oh, great.
From
so
the
I'm sure
Artist's
that'll
Way.
be.
And
Yeah.
that's going to be all about creativity. And then other people have talked a lot about service as well, and how when you give of your gifts, you give them in service. And when you're an entrepreneur, you give as you're in service, even if you're selling something, so that
Right.
there's a resonance with the people that need you.
Right. I think the path of the entrepreneur, more and more, but then this is a personal path that we have to find as well, is to find that place of service. And this whole flow of giving and receiving, that's very, it's hugely heart opening, and it takes you way beyond any idea of, oh, I give you this free content and you're going to give me a check because you're going to buy my thing, and much more into this place of so much learning and exchange going on, and being mindful of your bottom line and what you need to pay your mortgage. But
Yeah, you obviously you have to bring in some money if you're going to be in business. Otherwise, it's a hobby, right? And you have to pay your bills and so forth. But there's just, I love these threads that go through everything, and finding your gifts and how do you use those. So
I don't like to talk about what's becoming or the cusp that we're on, because it always makes me really frustrated. Like I want to be there and I want it to be happening now. And I'm very aware that we have a ticking clock of about 6 years to change the actions that we're taking with climate change, or there's not going to be any going back. And if you look at the current issue of National Geographic, you can see what the planet will look like at the turn of the new century. And for example, Florida will be completely flooded. Most of New York City, most of Manhattan Island will be uninhabitable. But I'm also aware that we're at this cusp, and this cusp feels like creativity and service coming together. And I think more and more people are trying to articulate it and live it, and not think about it, but live it.
Nice. The people that will be watching and listening to this, for the most part, I think are entrepreneurs and business people and writers and creative people trying to make a living doing what they love. Are there some words of advice that you can give about how you actually make a living being creative?
Well, I don't know how I've done it. I've done it for 26 years. And for many of those years, I took care of my family. I was the main wage earner. I'm now in a marriage where we both earn money. There's plenty of months or years when I think, how am I doing this? And I look at my bank account and I'm like, well, there's money in my bank account. Wow, I did it again this year. I've averaged in the profit in the low six figures for most of my career, sometimes, substantially more than that, but those have been the rare years. So I'm certainly not a wealthy person, but I have a very comfortable life. My retirement is fully funded. We have a very small mortgage on our house. We don't have any debt. So I feel like I'm a good working model of somehow doing it. And I think that a lot of it has been following what is hurting or burning in me, and then trying to articulate that in a way that can be of service to others. But I start with me, and I think that is not always the best choice. It's certainly not the only choice, but it seems to be the only thing that works for me. What is up with me? What is keeping me up at night? But then you have to translate it into something that other people want. And I don't always know that I do that so well. I think I would make a lot more money if I was looking out there and going, what do people need that I'm interested in giving?
Yeah, and that's partly where the marketing comes in.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of creative people, a lot of entrepreneurs in general will relate to what you're talking about and going in. So
can I say one more thing?
Yeah,
the other
please.
thing I've really done is learn how to market. I love to market other people's stuff. I love to talk about other people's stuff. I hate talking about my own stuff. And it took me years, and I still begrudge having to have the conversation over and over again. So I'm working on how to do that with more feeling of service and joy, and not a feeling of I'm trying to get something from people. But what I notice between friends of mine who don't have a sustainable life, who have, I think, far greater gifts than I do, is they're just not willing to embrace that people need to hear about stuff a lot, and that it takes a lot of energy, of your creative energy, to do that. And if you're not willing to do it, you are going to make a lot less money, or maybe not be able to get your business off the ground. And trying to embrace that, and trying to get creative about it, and trying to get serviceful and joyful about it is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
But also methodical, and really taking the time to learn from people like Michelle and other wise people. What are some of the nuts and bolts of what you need to do?
Yeah, I love that. And my whole focus is using your gifts to market, not going and tweeting because other people tell you have to.
Good.
Not going to networking events because other people tell you have to. And one thing I know about you is you've got really strong alliances out there in the world, online and offline. And I know other people love to market you. So that would be one of your gifts, is to allow all of us to help market you.
Thank you. And that's another thing to go back to support, right? To that theme. You know, and I can, letting people support me, trusting that I'm going to support them. I get completely freaked out if someone asks me to market them and I know they've marketed me and I can't right then. It's like maybe things are happening with my mom, or it feels like too much noise to put into my people's stream. So trusting that there's more in give and receiving, and also being willing to say no when people ask me to market things that I'm not in alignment with, because I've had the experience of saying yes and then getting complaints back because I didn't know the program, the book, whatever myself yet. Right. So being willing to say, no, I got to know more about this. I've got to try it out for myself. And I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. So I find that my edge around this is being unwilling to build my support system unless it's genuine. And so that, I think, slows things down too. But anyway.
How it may slow things down, but I also know from my experience, when we're marketing inside our gifts, things speed up. And I find it really interesting that you talk about support, and then of course there's all this support, and what we need to learn is our biggest gift, and that whole yin yang thing, right? So
yes, all right. I'm gonna really work on this, because I had this conference, and all the profits from this conference I'm giving to several women's charities and 350.org. I want to raise some money, and so I'm gonna be out there asking for support.
Ask me.
Okay,
I'm putting it out here live online. Ask me.
All right, I'll send you an email when we hang up.
Okay, good, perfect. All right, last question. If you had an extra $1 million sitting around, and I think I already know the answer.
Billion?
Million, billion, whatever it takes.
A billion. Oh.
Million. What cause, and I think I know the answer, but just talk about specifically, where would you put that? What cause, what person?
Well, because of this Shiro's Revolutionary School, and so I've interviewed 24 different women, so I know exactly. One part of it would go to women. Oh God, it's women. Let me just look. Oh my God. Let me put my glasses on. This thing about getting old, you can't see anything anymore. It's coming, everybody, hold on. Ew, why are there so many links in this document? Oh God. All right, I can't find it. I believe it's Women to Women, or Women Direct International. Okay. 350.org, which is Bill McKibben's climate change, to pressure the oil and gas and coal companies to keep their resources in the ground. If we take them out, we are going to die. And the third one would be one of the women I'm interviewing for this. Her name is Noorjahan Akbar. She's 19. She's an Afghani. She's going to school here in the U.S., but she's a feminist working in Afghanistan and doing incredible work with death threats every day.
Yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah. So there's more, but those would be three that I would.
Wow.
That was $1 million. I could give like $100,000 to 10 people.
Wow, isn't that cool? There's an Upworthy. Do you follow Upworthy?
I do.
Yeah, there's something online that I just saw today about the oil and gas industry trying to shut down an alternative program in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, it's really
So,
it's interesting. My beloved works in with climate change and endangered species and birds, and the people who are the people like you and I who work for the oil and gas and coal industry, they're not bad people. It's that it's this model that is at the top based on a model that we cannot, literally we can't sustain. And it is really a moral question because these companies at the top level know that taking out those reserves are going to send us farther over the threshold where we are now than we have in all of human history. This is what's still in the ground. And they spend, Exxon spends $100 million a day trying to explore to get that stuff out. And it's just a moral question. That needs to stop. That needs to stop. And so we can be putting that $100 million towards all the other ways that we know will work to sustain us power-wise.
you put your stake in the sand. And thank you very much.
Ah,
I love
you.
chatting
Yep.
with you today, and I look forward to your email.
All right, Michelle. Thank you.